Hey, what's going on there, guys? So back with another TLOU Live pre-show here, and I wanted to discuss more of my opinions on the Last of Us HBO show. Now, of course, if you didn't see, I did react to the very first episode on Sunday, and yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. Um, and I did say in the moment, it was kind of weird watching it, like not weird in a bad way, weird in a good way. It's just when you played the game for so long and you're so used to hearing the characters' voices and looking at the game, looking at it from a looking at the computer graphics, and now you're watching this story from this video game come to life in live action with characters that sound a little bit different than Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker, admittedly, but that doesn't matter that they sound different. And yeah, I watched episode one a second time the night after that Monday night. I watched it on the big TV, and that's really when I really started to enjoy the show more, and I started to notice smaller things too. And I did say on Sunday night that I really felt like Bella Ramsey was, I believed her performance, and I think she was a good pick for Ellie. Now, is she the best pick they could have made for Ellie? We'll never know. And I know much of the internet has discussed Bella Ramsey and if she's the right choice for Ellie. And my opinion on the topic is, after one episode, I feel like she is. And I said I had no prior experience with Bella Ramsey. I haven't seen her from the Game of Thrones, which she was touted for in the roles that she played, I know. And I just gotta say, like, I think people are too caught up in appearance and how the actors look. I mean, there's some resemblance of Pedro Pascal and the Joel in the video game. Sure, there's some resemblance. They don't look one for one alike, 100% alike. And I think there's also some resemblance between Bella Ramsey in the live action and, the Ellie from the video game. So, I mean, the important thing is do these characters feel, or do they have similar traits and mannerisms to their in-game characters? And what I saw from the first episode, I feel like they do. And it's just the first episode and we still got to see more, and maybe my opinion could change, but I was impressed by Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal. And I think the first time I watched it, I was more focused on Bella's performance, even though Pedro had more screen time in the first episode, just because of the divisiveness of Bella being casted. And like, I feel like with Pedro Pascal, like, I'm not going to say everyone, but a lot of people love Pedro Pascal and were happy when they picked him as Joel. And what's up, Cheesy Bear? I guess I wasn't as dialed into Pedro's performance, or I wasn't as focused. I know that sounds ridiculous because he had the most screen time, but yeah, I was just kind of curious to see how Bella would deliver, because I don't know. I just, maybe I had more confidence in Pedro, and plus I had seen Pedro Pascal before in a Narcos, so I already kind of knew what type of actor he was and figured he would be a good Joel. So, and I'm on my Twitter here, and after the episode on Sunday, I said overall I really liked episode 1 of The Last of Us HBO. I like seeing the expanded stories for the Sarah prologue and Boston Quarantine Zone. I already believe Bella can play a good portrayal of Ellie, Pedro, I still need to see more of, but I like his Joel. And at the time, I said that, but after the second watch of the episode, yeah, I'm convinced he's Joel. He can play Joel. And I just said I still need to digest this episode, and I have, and I've been watching. I've watched it twice. I've been watching a lot of people's opinions on the show. A lot of people are praising the show, and the show was a hit for the premiere. So, I mean, I've been just retweeting here, and Benji Sales, he retweeted that over 10 million viewers for the first 2 days of The Last of Us HBO, and that's just in the US alone. So that's pretty impressive. And yesterday, I know HBO came out saying it was the second most watched premiered on HBO since 2010, and I think maybe Game of Thrones episode or season premiere was ahead of it, but that's pretty impressive. And I think it was like 4.8 million viewers for the premiere on Sunday. And Benji Sales has been tweeting all that Last of Us is trending number one in the United States, even over the NFL for a portion on Sunday, which is kind of crazy. And I was looking at the schedule for the season, and I'm like, they're gonna have an episode on Super Bowl Sunday, and I was shocked by that. Like, I'm a big football fan, I'm a big sports fan, but I thought for sure they would take maybe a week off or 2 weeks off for the Super Bowl, just because that's probably really gonna hurt the numbers. But at the same time, you know, it's not like The Last of Us is on cable and you got to tune in at a certain time to watch it. It's on a streaming service, so you know you can watch it anytime you want. I'll probably that night I'll probably watch the Super Bowl, and since I have the next day off from work, I'll probably just watch the new episode after the Super Bowl. But I was kind of surprised. I was still kind of surprised. I didn't think they would debut a new episode on Super Bowl Sunday, but I guess they're confident that it'll still do well, even going up against the Super Bowl. So, yeah, and I just want to kind of just like maybe give some more thoughts on the episode. Like I said in my tweet, I really like how they expanded the stories of Sarah's prologue. Like we have a lot more screen time with Sarah in the show than we do the game, where the game's prologue when you're in Texas is like 10 to 15 minutes depending on how fast you're playing it. But I really like how they showed more of Sarah and tried to get us more familiar with Sarah's character. And I do also like that they're not trying to do a shot by shot, everything has to be the same in the show. I like that because, you know, the Last of Us HBO show, the TV show, is it's not connected with the video game. I mean, yeah, they're the same IP, but they're in different universes, you know? So it doesn't have to, they don't have to have a shot for shot. Everything needs to be the same. There's some small differences. Of course, they still need to respect the source material, and I certainly feel like they're respecting the source material with this first episode. And, you know, they do enough to feel like they haven't changed it too much. They're making minor changes, so, and it's just respecting the source material. And that's what I think respecting the source material means, is trying to feel familiar, but it's not trying to 100% copy the original. And yeah, I just felt like from the cinematography, the acting of the actors, the sets, the locations, the music by Gustavo Santaolalla, who does the games as well. I feel like everything was top notch, and you can tell this is a big budget show, and it's exciting that people are tuning into this show, and it feels like a lot of passion was put into this show. And of course you got Neil Druckmann and PlayStation and Naughty Dog being heavily involved in the show, which already made me confident that this was gonna be a hit. And you got Craig Mazin, who did Chernobyl, and that was a highly touted show. So I'm not shocked. It's the first episode was very good, and hopefully it can continue to be very good. But yeah, and I think some of my favorite moments were obviously the beginning, especially when they first show. Or I love how in the beginning they're really just building the tension of the outbreak occurring. You slowly see hints, and then once the what hits the fan, it's just like the game. It's crazy, and it's one of the more memorable openings to a TV show I've seen. And I really liked how, yeah, there's some similarities to the opening, but there's also some differences. Like in the opening, they show planes flying low and a big plane crash, and that's how Joel, Ellie, and Tommy. That's how their venture to go south in the vehicles is stopped because the plane crashes from behind them, and that was a very crazy scene. And I almost wonder if they thought about including that in the game, but maybe for reasons they couldn't put in the game. But that was definitely a memorable moment. Hold on, let me catch my breath here for a second. And I really liked the ending, one of the last scenes where Joel beats the Fedra soldier really brutally. But what I kind of liked about that scene is how they show what's going on in Joel's head, and how the Federal soldier was flashing his flashlight in him, about to shoot him, and he connected that to Sarah's death. And I think that they're showing Joel's PTSD from that moment, and that's something that kind of reminded me of The Last of Us Part 2, and how they really tried to like explore the minds of Ellie and Abby. And with Last of Us Part 1, the video game, that's not something they really showed. They don't really dive deep into Joel's mind, what he's thinking, maybe the post-traumatic stress that he may be suffering from the death of his daughter. And I like that because I like to understand these characters and get a glimpse of what's going on in their head. You can understand their motivations and why they're doing what they're doing. And it wasn't just a flashback, it was what Joel was thinking about, and it fit into that moment. It was like, oh, this Joel is now remembering this traumatic event that happened, and he that just awoken a beast, and he just went beast mode on that Federal soldier. So yeah, I gotta get better about this. Every time I record one of these TLOU lives, I don't know what it is. I run out of breath, and I don't know if that's just because I'm not used to talking this much. But I'm sorry about this. But I told myself I was going to talk slower and not run out of breath. But here I am. Okay. Yeah, so I really kind of hope we see more of that, and like we get to really see the explore the minds of these characters and what they're going through, because they live in a harsh world where these characters are undergoing horrific traumas. And yeah, I think exploring the minds, we can understand their motives, we can understand just other things about their characters. And so, and that's why I think The Last of Us Part 2 really resonates with me, because you just I feel like a deeper connection to these characters when we understand what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and we understand their motives and why they do what they do. And I was listening to The Last of Us HBO podcast, and Craig Mazin, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said, everything that these characters do in The Last of Us is all rooted from love. And it's all, you see the worst and the best of what love does for people in the games. And hopefully we'll see that in the show. And that's what he wanted to instill in the people that were putting this show together and the actors, that that's what drives these characters in such a harsh world, is love. And love can cause people to do bad things, and love can cause people to do good things. So yeah, and I mean, I know that sounds really like cheesy, but, or maybe not cheesy, but I totally get what he's saying. And I think that's what, at the core, Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2 is about. I think Part 1 is more the positive end of love. Well, I mean, there's some obviously at the end, uh, but I think both games, Part 1 and Part 2, I think a lot of what the characters do is rooted from love. So, yeah. Now let me take my breath here again. I'm gonna get better at this. I promise. Let me see if anything is interesting on Twitter today. Yeah, just talking about the viewership. Keep going for family. And that's Gabriel Luna. I thought he did a great job portraying Tommy. He sounded a lot like Tommy too, which is funny because he looks nothing like Tommy. And that's the thing. Like, it doesn't really matter what they look or even sound like. It's all about their mannerisms. And with Bella Ramsey, yeah, she doesn't really look like Ellie, and she doesn't really sound like Ashley Johnson. But she's a headstrong. She portrays Ellie in as a headstrong character, and she portrays Ellie as someone with a lot of, I don't know if I want to say spunk, but maybe ferocity. Um, and someone who, maybe not mature beyond her years, but I I feel like she got the Ellie character's key traits down. And there's characters in cinema and TV shows that are portrayed by other actors. Like, I mean, look at how many James Bonds there's been, or how many Batmans there's been, or Jokers. Not all those actors portrayed the character in the same way. So, as long as Bella Ramsey feels gives a familiar feel to the character, but it doesn't have to be 100% the same, I'm fine with that. And I believe Bella, Pedro, Gabriel, and the actor that played Sarah, which I'm drawing a blank on her name right now, train those characters. And yeah, so that's what I'll say. Greater purpose. Yeah, I did like that scene with Ellie and Marlene at the beginning, and how Marlene was, you know, talking about how she has a greater purpose, and they didn't show her telling what that greater purpose is. Of course, we know what it is, that Ellie's immune and could potentially be the cure to the cordyceps. But I really did like that scene, and shout out to, what's her name? Is it Meryl? Her last name starts with a D. I can't think of it last name right now, but she plays Marlene in the video game as well. And yeah, I was impressed by her acting in that scene. But that's an interesting scene for someone who knows the game so well. But I think that would also be an interesting scene for someone who doesn't know the source material. Be like, oh, what is she referring to? So yeah. And just like I was talking about how I like the cinematography, especially during the outbreak, and like they're driving and they have like some similar shots to the game while they're driving. Like you see the highway signs, and but yeah, it just I liked how I wasn't expecting to have similar camera angles to what the camera angles were in the game. And I think I'm also I did upload my reaction to the first episode without any clips from the episode. Now I'm gonna try to edit in some clips, and I have seen people on YouTube. I guess there is a way to upload reactions that show the TV show without getting the video shut down or copyright strike. So I'm gonna try to figure out a way to do that if I can, because I would like to have that. So I don't know. It would just be more interesting video, more interesting of a video if I did that. I guess they released this video today. That's like the first part in a series of just going behind the scenes of the making of The Last of Us Part 1. So I'll probably watch that later. I haven't seen it yet. And I did also enjoy hearing some of the same lines that were from the game. Now, I'm glad it's not a word for word same lines for everything, but they do sneak the lines in here and there, and some of the lines are said by different characters or said slightly differently, which I find kind of cool, just how they did that. And there was, of course, plenty of Easter eggs, like what was the DVD that Curtis and Viper 2, that's referenced in The Last of Us Part 2 as the movie that Joel and Ellie were gonna watch the night of Joel, before Joel died. You know, obviously they planned to do that. So that was even The Last of Us Part 2 is already getting Easter eggs. Joel and Ellie's journey so far, official poster. Oh yeah, I started this the other day. Found this kind of funny. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna switch over to gameplay, get back to Last of Us Part 2 grounded gameplay. So I will see you in that video. I will be back soon.